Good day, my friends. I hope you are having a really fulfilling day today, that you're enjoying life and you're giving thanks to God for all that you have in your life. I am still thinking over this teaching of Jesus that we read in Sunday morning's worship from Luke chapter 12, verse 32 and 33. Jesus says, "Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give to the poor." I'm going to leave you today not so much with a teaching, but rather a question. I'll tell you what the question is right up front. It's this: how do we best redistribute our wealth to care for the poor? The setting in Luke chapter 12 is this. Jesus is teaching a great crowd of people. In the middle of his teaching, a man interrupts Jesus with a request. Verse 13, "Tell my brother to divide my inheritance with me," he requested of Jesus. Obviously, there's some family dispute about how to distribute the inheritance left by mom and dad. Jesus uses this question as a prompt to teach against greed and worry. He tells a parable of a rich fool who has been given much and he doesn't know what to do with it all. So he builds more barns to store it up for himself so he can just sit back and relax and take it easy. Jesus calls this man a fool. Jesus goes on to teach that we should not worry about our lives, what we eat or what we drink. He references how God takes care of the birds of the air and how God clothes the lilies of the field. He concludes by saying this: "Seek first God's kingdom and all these things will be given to you." Well, that's the context of Jesus' teaching, to sell our possessions and give to the poor. How do we refer to this teaching here? How would we describe it? Is it a call to generosity? Is it a call to almsgiving? That's the old word for giving to the poor. Is it a call to social welfare? Is it a redistribution of wealth? We may not like that last term. Maybe it sounds like socialism does, but that's what it is. Taking a portion of what we have and giving it to care for the poor. That's what Jesus is pretty plainly teaching us. And we find this call throughout the whole Bible. In the Old Testament law, Deuteronomy chapter 15 talks about taking care of those who are poor with a portion of what we have. In the prophets, we see this call. Isaiah 58 says that true fasting is doing exactly that, taking some of what we have and giving it to the poor. In the writings, Proverbs chapter 19 verse 17 says this: "Whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord," which reminds us of Jesus' teaching in Matthew 25 when he tells a parable of that when we cared for those who are in need, who were hungry, who were thirsty, who were naked, who were sick, who were in prison, that when we cared for them, we were really caring for Jesus. Jesus teaches in the Sermon on the Mount to give to the one who asked of you. We're the earliest followers of Jesus, obviously heard this teaching from Jesus frequently. In Acts chapter 2 and chapter 4, we see that the earliest Christian community behaved that way, that those who had much gave to those who had less. In 1 John chapter 3 verse 17, it says this: "If anyone has the world's goods and sees his brother or sister in need, yet closes his heart to them, how does God's love abide in him?" The teaching throughout the Bible is that we're to take a portion of what we have to give to care for those who are in need. The question is not whether or not to redistribute our wealth, whether if we should do that, but whether how. The teachings of the Bible, and especially the teaching of Jesus, should supersede our opinions, our politics, our economic outlook. Jesus simply says, sell your possessions and give to the poor. So the question is not whether we should do that, it's how we should do that. How do we best redistribute our wealth to care for the poor? Now, we're going to be along a whole continuum here, I would imagine, right? We're going to have some who say it should be totally voluntary. that it should be a choice that someone makes to care for the poor. It shouldn't be forced upon them. I've heard people say that social welfare should not in any way be under the government, but rather should be under the church, the followers of Jesus. That's how it should happen. And then you're going to have people on the other end who might be referred to as socialists who are going to say, this redistribution should be significant. We should be giving a significant portion of what we have to care for those who are in need. And it should be something that's mandatory, kind of laid down by the government. And we're going to have every opinion in between. And I'm not here to say which one we should do. I'm going to leave that question with you today. Jesus calls us to sell our possessions and give to the poor. So the question I leave with you to talk with others, to talk with your life group, might be a wonderful life group question to discuss, or with your family, or just think about, how do we best redistribute our wealth to care for the poor, as Jesus calls us to do? I hope that gives you some fruitful thought today. Have a great day.